One day after the decree by President Metta, Prime Minister Edi Rama delegated the duties of Foreign Minister to Gent Cakaj, widening the rift between the two heads of state. The head of the Vlora prosecution, Alton B Nye, will continue his duties after a decision made by the Independent Qualification Commission. After the death of a 4-month-old baby, the Public Health Institute reports that cases of measles have been increasing, raising the number of people affected to 30. Good evening. It's 6 o'clock on Wednesday, the 23rd of January, 2019. Welcome to the English edition of Aura News. My name is Oliver, and I'm here to bring you the day's top stories from across the country, translated into English. Although President Metta was unconvinced to declare him as foreign minister, Gent Cakaj today assumed the role appointed by Prime Minister Edi Rama. In thanking Rama for his support, Sakai said the Ministry of Foreign Affairs will continue to push forward the governmental agenda to pave the way for regional integration. This transfer of institutional authority from Mr. Bushati, in addition to his contribution to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, allows me to assume my duties, and of course, Prime Minister Edi Rama, who I don't know how to thank enough for the care and faith he has shown, does not signify any changes of strategic or political importance set out by the Albanian government. We will remain an inalienable force of peace and stability, a powerful promoter of the spirit of reconciliation, and a credible bearer of the development of ideas through dialogue and cooperation with all our neighbors indiscriminately. We want to further bolster the communication, interaction, and cooperation for Albania. At the same time, we remain committed to fulfilling all the obligations that stem from our commitments to the region, stated Sakai. Meanwhile, this remains a decisive year for Albania's future regarding integration into the European Union, with difficult and intensive months ahead for the employees of this ministry, according to Sakai. Albania's path to join the European family passes through a consolidation process of the region. The next 5 months will be an intensive work period. The Foreign Ministry will continue its intensive work for a more qualitative performance. One of my central objectives will be to increase the interaction among the ministries to realize every request presented in the June 2018 Council of Conclusions, explained Sakai. The following period will lend its attention to two key objectives of the Albanian diplomacy: the OSCE's most successful leadership role in 2020 and the commitment to provide the country with a Security Council in 2022. Gent Cakaj seems to have found this inner calm during these tense days after a litany of attacks against him. Meanwhile, Foreign Minister Bushati, during his assignment, said that work of the ministry should continue with intensity in order to ensure a better future for Albania. He stated, "There is no guarantee that what we had before will be better than or easier than what we will have planned ahead. Our transformational work has certainly created dissatisfaction and opposition. But one thing is certain. The challenges have made us stronger and more stable. I hope to see a more worthy Albania of tomorrow," declared Bushati. Gent Cakaj continues to be a thorn between the Prime Minister and the President. The delegation of ministerial duties to Gent Cakaj by Prime Minister Edi Rama once again showed the different approach between the two most important institutions of the country. Former Foreign Minister Pascal Milo considers it to be the right of Prime Minister to delegate such a duty, but also adds that this created a situation for both the head of state and the government. Gent Cakaj has received criticisms over his lack of foreign policy experience, especially in relation to Kosovo. But the former minister says that Albania diplomacy is decided by the government and not by a single person. Serious reactions to the Prime Minister came from former President Bujar Nishani, who stated that by delegating such a duty, it has created an illegal political power. Other reactions against the Prime Minister have also emanated from constitutionalists and opposition representatives. The prosecutor of the appellate prosecution in Vlora, Alton B Nye, has been confirmed to duty. The reevaluation for B Nye was performed based on 3 criteria: wealth, character, and professional skill set. According to the ILDK-PKI, also known as the High Inspectorate of Declaration and Audit of Assets and Conflict of Interests, B Nye has made an accurate declaration of wealth and has justified his financial resources with no false statements. B Nye owns a 102 square meter apartment in Vlora and a 52 square meter apartment in Orakum. The High Inspectorate of Declaration and Audit of Assets and Conflict of Interest has assessed the criteria for evaluating the image for which the prosecutor is eligible in relationship to his continuation of duties. The Independent Qualification Commission declared that there were 2 reports against the prosecutor, but it was found that there are no indications of veracity behind the denunciations. The only problem ascertained by the Independent Qualification Commission was the purchase of household furniture worth 600,000 lek within a year, which B Nye states were from funds that were collected over a period of several years. SP Parliament Speaker Talan Bala called upon the Democratic Party to take responsibility to help approve the electoral reform package. He stated the Democratic Party should take on the responsibilities for the approval of the package entailing electoral reform, which is the best it's been in 27 years. Its aim is for political parties to resign themselves from administrating the electoral process. The majority in Parliament has offered an opportunity to the opposition to write changes in the electoral code. It is imperative to explore the options of technology in the electoral process, as previously requested by the opposition, stated Talan Bala. Bala called the draft excellent, but underlined that it is not always the electoral code that guarantees good and thorough elections in compliance with the outlined standards. Today, we have filed an excellent draft that guarantees high electoral standards in Albania in full reflection of all recommendations by the OSCE ODIHR reports over the period of the past 3 elections. But it is not always the electoral code that guarantees good and thorough elections in compliance with standards. First of all, there is a political will among parties to improve the electoral process. While it is true that the elections are a race, the political behavior among parties certainly plays a role and has a profound impact on the process, added Bala. Bala invited the DP to sit down and negotiate as soon as possible and not to waste time. The local elections will be held on June 30th, 2019. Learning just in time about the symptoms of measles as well as the importance of vaccinations eliminate unfortunate deaths. This is the appeal made by the Public Health Institute after a fatal incident of a 4-month-old baby at the University Medical Center Mother Teresa. Specialist Eugenia Tomini said that it is important for adults in their 80s and 90s to also apply to receive a measles vaccine. The most vulnerable age group consists of those under 2, and according to the National Vaccination Calendar, it is the ideal time to receive a vaccination. Currently, there are no serious cases present, but the case that unfortunately transpired has affected us all, informed Tomini. Meanwhile, Dr. Vjolca Palaveshi suggested that mothers are still afraid to vaccinate their children. The Institute of Public Health suggests that by January 22, 2019, the number of individuals affected by measles reached 30. The confirmed cases have been among mainly toddlers, and so far during 2018, over 113,000 vaccinations have been reported, out of which over 51,000 have been vaccinations in accordance with the National Vaccination Schedule for persons aged 1 through 5. For the second time in January, snowfall has brought about a series of problems to the northern regions of the country. The snow precipitation began around midnight last night. The Ministry of Defense reports that the rural road access Shkodra Bregui Lumit is still blocked on Shoshi Mountain. Throughout the district, the national road axes have been passable without the need for snow chains, with the exception of Domai Dreirech, which requires the use of chains along certain segments of road. National and rural road axes have all been passable in Gjirokastër except for the Kolon Golem road axis, in which drivers are experiencing difficulties. All rural axes have remained open in Elbasan, though in the administrative district of Oren, the streets in the villages of Dranovic and Kosten are blocked. Authorities are still working to open them. And that's the news across the country today. Thank you for watching our English edition this evening. And be sure to join me again every Monday to Saturday at 6 p.m. for the latest news from Albania. Once again, on behalf of Aura News, thank you and good night.